Thank you for joining us on the New Bridge Radio Show. You can also catch us online at newbridgeradio.com. Find us on Facebook under New Bridge Radio Show or follow us on Twitter at New Bridge Radio. Now let's connect you with what's next.
Welcome back to the New Bridge Radio Show on WLTK-DB. Let's talk. I am your host, Kevin Mackey, and we are connecting you to what's next in your life. And we're here to remind you that you are important to this world, and we sure are glad to have you along on this episode of the New Bridge Radio Show. Remember, if you would like to get in touch with the New Bridge Radio Show, you can email us. Our email address is thenewbridgeradioshow@gmail.com. Feel free to drop us a line and let us know what you like about our show. And if you must, you can also let us know what you don't like. And what we love to hear, what we love to know is your story. If you are someone that has connected to what was next in your life, we want to hear from you. Let us know how you connected to what was next in your life, and we may invite you as a guest on our show. Also, remember, if you would like a distant Reiki treatment or if you'd like a reading by me, you can go to my website, www.limestreetwellness.com, and you can book an appointment. If you use the promo code BRIDGE, you'll get 15% off of a distant Reiki or an intuitive session. And I'd love to see you. So feel free to drop by www.limestreetwellness.com. Tonight on the New Bridge Radio Show, I am super, super excited for my next guest. She is someone that has been a part of my life for a very long time. We both went to high school together. We both have interesting paranormal stories, and we both hated PE. She is Cari Olson, and she is coming to us from California, and I am glad to have her. Cari, welcome to the New Bridge Radio Show.
Kevin, how are you?
I am doing great. You know what, Cari? I got to tell everyone that tonight is your birthday, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, it is in fact my birthday. And just full transparency, I'm actually at my Vegas house and not in California at the moment. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
I knew this about you. I knew that you had multiple homes now, because you know.
Yeah. Well, not multiple homes. More like an investment property and a home. But
Right.
yeah, it's interesting. It's I'm sort of in a changing situation right now, trying to figure out what that looks like for me. Because I've got my house in San Diego for sale, and then I've been using this house here in Vegas as an investment property, like corporate rentals, that kind of thing. So it's hard to say where I'm going to land.
Nice. Well, we're the same age now as of today.
You're still older though.
Oh, by a lot. Oh, 2 months. But so far it hasn't been all that bad.
Yeah.
I tell you what, this being the age that I am now, I have never been, I didn't ever see myself being this busy. And I'm kind of shocked by it, especially after this year.
Right.
Everything that's happened. So is it the same for you? Are you like running around like crazy?
I mean, it kind of is. It's just, it so happens. So I'm only maybe 10 hours into this birthday. And what I will say is the last year and a half, COVID aside, all that kind of stuff has probably been one of like the biggest, most enlightening periods of my entire life. Busy, yes, for a million different reasons. Confronting, a lot of things about just like life changes, I guess at this point, like what really matters, those kind of things. And believe it or not, those things keep you very busy.
Yeah, good Lord, I know. I've been we were talking before the show, I've been in a mentorship program throughout the whole year with a great group of people, and doing it's for energy sensitive people. And so we've been working and doing all kinds of things and learning all kinds of stuff. So it's been a busy year. Plus I've been, working my regular job and doing sessions for clients. So it's just been a busy year. people are like, "Where have you been?"
I try to stay off the grid. I mean, I'm not like this. Actually, this was very uncomfortable for me. Like, I just thought, like, oh, I had to think really hard about it. Like, just I'm somebody that likes to stay off the radar kind of thing. Not in a bad way, but it's just like it's not like attention isn't necessarily my thing. But I feel like, yeah, like the last year and a half for sure, I feel like I've been sort of the center of the universe for a lot of different reasons. So had to confront a lot of different things. Good, good though.
Well, I'm glad to have you because your birthday, I'll never forget your birthday ever. I kind of tease you sometimes and say it is the day that will live in infamy, Cari.
I think I know what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, yeah, I'll let you. It's your story to tell. I'll let you tell the story, but it's funny because I do remember that. Like, and that's why it's so hard to grasp where I'm at, like in terms of age and stuff, is because in my mind, there's things that I can remember that, like, literally it could have happened last week.
Well, the day that will live in infamy will be probably in your brain forever. So, Cari, we both lived in Colorado Springs, Colorado when we were young teenagers. We went to the same high school.
Mm-hmm.
And on Cari's, it was your 16th birthday, right?
No, I think that was actually my 18th birthday. And if you remember, like, so the night before I turned 18 is when I actually was, we'll just say, kicked out of my house. And and I can't remember the exact circumstances around why you were dropping me off where you were. Are we talking about the same thing?
No.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, then I'm going to let you go ahead because I'm thinking.
So Cari winds up at my aunt's house. My Aunt Carolyn was the best person for teenagers and young people.
She's an amazing human being, yeah.
And she has been that way her entire life. Like, she just knows how to relate to young people and teenagers on such a great level. And you know what's interesting, Cari? Before you ever got there, I didn't. Before I actually got there, you probably didn't know this. I did not know my Aunt Carolyn.
No, I do remember that. I remember that you did not. You guys, yeah, I know the circumstances were very different, and I remember that Valerie I don't even think had met you up until the point you guys were about 16.
Yeah, she only met me one time.
So yeah.
And so we're in this house together. My aunt is, kind of the teenage whisperer and taking care of all of us.
Absolutely.
And you show up at our door because you've been kicked out of the house. And I think, you're a Gen Xer like me, and every single person, not every single, but so many people in our generation dealt with the same issue where we all had a step parent who could not stand us.
Right.
And that is the whole reason I was at my Aunt Carolyn's house as well.
And how I was at Carolyn's house as well. No doubt. Mm-hmm.
I had a step parent who, had been my parent since I, learned to talk. And I remember my grandparents, my stepdad. I remember my grandparents asking me when I first met my stepdad. Being really, really little, I looked at his face, and for some reason, instantly knew, oh, he doesn't like me.
I knew right away. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that moment stuck with him, forever. I mean, he just remembers me being a little tiny kid looking at him and saying, oh, he doesn't like me. And so we just never got along.
Never hit it off. Yeah, no, my stepdad and I were the same way. And he was actually, it's really interesting, I guess, like thinking about it, but he had 2 kids. So you've got a blended family. Mm-hmm. And, he, I think, kind of drove the bus, if you will, for, all practical purposes. But at the end of the day, the parent, I guess, that was supposed to stick out for me and have my back and protect me is the parent that did not. And that would have been my mother. But my stepdad, he had a very violent temper. but he wasn't somebody that hit you. He was somebody that exploded, and he wouldn't punch you, but he'd punch the wall next to you, kind of thing. And so when I think of that, like I think I never knew like confrontation like that at all. Like I think of like my grandparent, like just how I grew up. Like I didn't know what that was like. And he and I it was oil and water, no matter what I did. And his kids were good and we were bad. And, unfortunately we were part of the deal. So, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And it was so you, on your birthday, you get booted from your house.
The night before I turned 18. Yeah.
And came to live with us in the 4th level.
Yep, I did.
What we called the 4th level.
The 4th level.
We're 4th level teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 4 teenagers in this house. And we had all come to this little gathering for different reasons and different and I honestly had so much fun.
Oh, absolutely.
During that time.
Back about that, and when I talk about that, I mean, it's nothing but affection and love. Like the fact that, we're all kind of displaced for even, those who were there for a variety of different reasons. But I think about that time with so much affection, and just like, and it has proven to me that I think you can create a family with your friends. It doesn't necessarily need to be blood. You can have a family that is your friends.
Absolutely.
And there's so many things that make me laugh about that time. Like, I mean, I remember being in charge of cooking dinner and getting the kids rustled up, the younger kids and stuff, because there were 2, we'll call them preteens at that time.
Preteens. Yep.
And it's just funny. Yeah. Like thinking about it, like it was almost like we just had sort of created like a little pod for ourselves
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people probably don't know this, but we were from the class in Colorado. We were the last class that could drink at 18.
Try explaining that. That is the hardest thing to explain to people that were not part of that generation.
Right.
What is 3-2 beer? What is a 3-2 wine beer? We used to be able to go to bars on the weekend and then have to go to like math class on Monday.
Yep.
It made no sense. It made no sense at all.
Right. We could drink at 18, but we could only drink we could drink beer that was only 3.2% alcohol, or wine coolers that were 3.2. And they had like different 3-2 bars around Colorado Springs that people our age, teenagers, would hang out at. And
think about that for a second. The fact that we were 18 years old, still seniors in high school, and we would go to a bar on the weekend and drink and get pitchers of beer.
Right. What's so funny? Those pictures, it took like a few of those pictures just for one person to actually feel anything. And what was strange about that time is, you'd go to these places and go to these 3-2 bars, and people would have pictures of beer. And as the night progressed, without failure, people would start getting more and more pissed off because they weren't getting anything. So there were almost always fights at the 3-2 bars when we were.
Oh, and the line in the ladies' room, because it was so watered down, was always like 150 women deep. Like it was
right.
Because it was so watered down. But yeah, when you think about that, like I couldn't imagine my own daughter going to a bar.
I know. Can you imagine? Oh, I didn't do my homework because I was at the bar. I was at the Odyssey. Or sometimes you'd see people there and you'd be like, what?
Yeah, I mean, good times. But God, and also too, there was that big club in Denver. I can't remember what it was called, but like everybody used to go there, and I just like thinking about that, like, oh my God.
Yeah, right. And so here's another interesting fact about our high school class. The rock band Def Leppard decided to film a video, pour some sugar on me. They decided to film it in Colorado.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So they came to Colorado and filmed pour some sugar on me. And the interesting thing, there are kids from our high school in that video, in the footage of
Wait,
that.
what?
Yeah. There are kids from Doherty in there. There are kids from Colorado Springs Christian School. Remember that school?
Yeah.
That, they're not supposed to be going to Def
Where was
Leppard
it filmed
concerts.
at? Florida Springs. Wait. Back up. I don't know anything about this. Like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, were we seniors then? Or like, was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were seniors.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah. Go and watch the video. Pour some sugar on me, and look at the teenagers in the audience.
Okay, I'll have to see if I recognize anybody. I mean, I have a handful of people that are still in my life from that time.
Yeah.
So, I feel like somebody would have told me though if they were in the Def Leppard. And if you didn't and you're listening,
and you were in that video, join the show and talk. Yes, there were people from our high school that were in that.
Interesting. I did not know that. Know that.
Yeah, and there was a group, a contingency from Colorado Springs Christian School that also went.
That's even better. Oh my God, that's even better.
Right? I wonder, one of them was a friend of my friend Wendy. And
I remember her. I totally remember her. Yeah.
Yeah, and we also hung around with Wendy and Nikki. You know that Nikki passed away.
No.
It was the most shocking thing ever. She only made it to 50.
Really?
Yes. We were all so
I'm
disappointed.
I am so sorry to hear that. I think one of the things for me that has been really like sort of awakening or just like startling, if you will, is like the number of people in the last couple of years that we've gone to high school with and stuff that have passed away. And it's kind of like age is one of those things, like whatever, I'm X amount of years old, but in my mind, like there's so many things that I can remember that I feel like, they could have happened yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like to think of, these people that we knew that have passed away from, various different causes or reasons or whatever. It's kind of unsettling. It really is. Like it's. I don't want to be so bold as to say it's a mortality thing, but it definitely has made me think, because in the last year, two people that I know from high school, one of them, I don't know if you remember Brian, he actually went to Coronado, but Brian Bakarowski, I found out not long ago, actually, that he had passed away in November. Mm-hmm. And then Jada Sears actually had passed away in February. And it was just such a, like it just stunned me. It just stunned me. More than anything.
It makes it sometimes when I hear about things like that, it just makes me, I'm like, is our generation leaving before our parents? Because we're kind of the smallest generation of that. The last century, I think we're smaller by half of the baby boomers, and then we're not even half of the the millennials.
Right.
So we're just this tiny group of people in this, and it's always shocking to me. It's like and you look at they have this terrible morbid website, Cari, called Dead or Alive.
Is that the one where you can take bets on who's dying?
No.
Okay.
But I know what site you're
I don't know anything about that website.
the bet one. Who's
Well, you make a list of people you think are going to die that year, and then you can actually place bets. Actually, here in Vegas, on whether or not they're going to make it through the year.
I know that, and sometimes it makes CNN.
Yeah.
You hear CNN talking about, oh my God, they're still alive. Like they had Betty White on there for years.
Right? I remember hearing something about
and
that.
they used to put the meanest tweets on Twitter about Betty White.
Oh,
Like
really?
it would be something simple like Betty White bought a new car or something like that. And she'd start trending. Like Betty White would
Right.
trend on Twitter, and everybody on Twitter would go immediately to see what's wrong with Betty White. Is she
I
okay?
do remember that. Yeah, like there were a few occasions where she would show up on my social media feeds and stuff, and it always created. People would be like, "Oh my god, no, she's like she can't go. She can't go. It's
Right,
not."
right,
Yeah.
right. You'd be in the grocery store in the line, and your phone would ring, and it'd be your Twitter, and it'd be like, Betty White, why is Betty White trending? And everybody in the store line, Betty White's trending.
She was a national treasure. There's no doubt. She was a national treasure for
Right,
sure.
absolutely. There's nobody that triggered that little site more than Betty White.
Absolutely.
And it was, you know what, Carrie, it was so terrible that when she actually did pass, I just thought it can't be true. Is it true? And it was true. I was like, oh my gosh. You know what's weird is she passed away on New Year's Eve.
Did she? Okay.
Yeah, she passed away.
It's fairly recent. She was 99.
99.
99,
Right.
yeah.
And there are a number of, the MASH crew, which, I think is forever ingrained in our whole entire generation.
Absolutely. That defined a generation without question. Yeah.
Right. Like, if you're stressed out, all you got to do is listen to that theme song and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, it's going to be better. Like I had this lady that came for a Reiki session and I snuck the MASH theme into her music, into her track. And she was, and it's so funny, Carrie. She's just sitting there and all of a sudden it comes on and her face just starts beaming. And I was like, I knew that we could. But anyway, most of the MASH people have died on New Year's Eve.
Really?
Yeah. Father Mulcahy died on New Year's Eve.
I'll have to go back and look. That's an interesting fact. That's one of my go-to shows and stuff. And I'll tell you, like, just as a side note, that's kind of funny. So I love like sitcoms from the 70s, whether it's Mary Tyler Moore or MASH, whatever, or like especially movies. Any movie that has like Doris Day or whatever.
Right.
That sort of that period of time. And my daughter calls them like she's like, we're not watching a movie from the 1800s. Like that's why they don't get it. Like they don't get it. Like Mary Tyler Moore, like that was iconic. That was absolutely iconic. They don't get it.
Right. Mary and Rhoda were very important.
Rhoda, I know, right?
But
I'm the Mary, you're my Rhoda. Like
exactly. Yeah. And when we were young, there was a sitcom that we were forbidden to watch as kids, and it was the sitcom Soap.
Oh my god! Like iconic.
Do you remember this show?
Oh, so much. And you know what? It's really hard to find it because I stream now too. Because I'm so hip. So I can stream all my shows from the 1800s. So going back and watching that is absolutely hysterical. Like Billy Crystal and like who he is, no words. It's amazing. And you know what? I've always said too that like, I think it was shows like that, like having watched it and just the comedy sitcoms and stuff. Many, many times throughout my life, I've been, like, what would you do if you could do anything kind of thing? And I've always thought that like writing sitcom had to have been like the most fun job, like writing for SNL or something. I can't think of a better job than sitting around laughing with these actors. Yeah.
Right. And Soap was so controversial because it had adultery.
Yep.
Homosexuality.
Yep.
Interracial marriage. It also had religious affairs. Yep. Like Corinne fell in love with a priest.
Yeah. And that was right. And then they had a baby that was possessed.
Right. So,
right.
Right. Like probably you, myself, and my cousin Valerie, who also lived on the 4th level, we could probably do a one-person show to that whole series because it was so hilariously funny.
Oh my God. And like there have been, I can't even tell you, like a million times I have, where I've tried to find it, wanted to rewatch it kind of thing, but also have tried to find out too, like what was the sort of the lost episode, because you remember how it ended, right? Like there was a sudden, and to find out exactly what would have happened and stuff. And there were a couple, it's so funny because there's a couple of different scenarios about what would have happened to Jessica at that time. But that was an amazing show. That was such an amazing show.
It was an amazing show. And then and people, Valerie,
you can't see me, right?
If you did that to Valerie in her face, she would laugh hilariously because it was, part of that little thing. And what else is interesting? Where, my niece and nephew can't believe that our, the non-Gen X generation never got to see is they don't believe that MTV used to just play music.
I can't believe that they used to just play music. Now when you turn it on, it's anything but music.
I know. It's the strangest thing. So when we were, in school and MTV used to play music, they did something every afternoon where they would take call-ins and requests from everybody around the United States. And then in the afternoon, they would play the playlist of what everybody had
I remember that, yeah.
And for, I don't know, maybe 8 months, maybe even longer than that, it was the same song at number 1 forever and ever and ever. And it was Home Sweet Home by Monica. Like people our age are going to play that at their funeral.
Well, I remember, and I'm pretty sure it would have been like the senior year, but Valerie and I were getting ready to go out on New Year's Eve. And one of the things that they used to do also was on New Year's Eve, they would play like the top list of songs for the entire year, right? And they wouldn't get till number 1 until like pretty late at night. And I remember just thinking like, and I love the Dire Straits, but I can't remember what that song was, but I remember us like hanging out like for 3 or 4 hours waiting for like the number 1 song to come. And we were like, seriously? Like the Dire Straits, really?
I know what song that is. That's that song, your money for nothing is your chicks for free.
Yes.
Because I remember,
so annoying. I can totally appreciate them now, but like at the time, I was like,
I remember that you're like, this can't be the number 1 song.
Yeah, like seriously, like we had delayed our whole evening. I mean, but everything was, like even now for me, like everything has like a music attachment to it. I mean, you can see behind me. They're, the best of the best, the worst of the worst, and in between is always about like there's always a memory attached to music for me. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. So the other interesting thing about that, about MTV playing all music is every single person that you meet that remembers that can tell you the very first video they ever saw on MTV. And for me, the very first video I ever saw on MTV was Kim Carnes' Betty Davis Eyes.
Really? Okay.
Which, people probably know how old I am now that I've said that. Yeah, that was the very first video, and I was amazed by it. I was like, oh my gosh, Kim Carnes, she became one of my favorite one of my favorite singers of all time. And when we were all living in the 4th level, what made it really great was we had these nights called K-Tail nights. And a lot of people are like, K-Tail, what's K-Tail?
Oh my God. That was if you know. I mean, that's all there is to it. Yeah. I mean, the 800 number to call the K-Tel, I can't even remember that. And the, oh my gosh, what was it where you would get the, when CDs became like, you would the automatic
subscription.
mail.
It was
Yeah.
Columbia House. Columbia House.
You would get the 6,000 CDs in the mail for like $1 or something like that.
Yep.
The K-Tel, that was definitely that was something special. That was something really special.
That was, and we still refer to it to this day, a K-Tel day. And and it was interesting because back then everything was still records,
right?
Big vinyl records. And my cousin Valerie had a stereo that she probably got in 6th grade. And it was one of those.
It was like 4 feet tall.
Right. It was stackable. It had huge speakers on it.
And the buttons were like this big that you could dial.
Right. It was like, her room was like a teenage dream. Mm-hmm. She had a huge stereo, and, walk in.
A waterbed.
A waterbed.
Waterbed. Oh my God. And then she had a couch in there too. Don't forget the couch.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And
so I think it's where I slept for a few months. Yeah.
You slept in that couch.
Yeah.
For a number of months while you lived there, and every weekend without fail we did this K-Tel night where we listened to those records on that that ginormous stereo. And awesome. And to this day, we still do that. We still have these these K-Tel nights.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's something that I carried with me even to this day of I got to get my K-Tel music out.
Can you imagine? Like, I wonder, God, I've never even looked to see if you could even get those, but the K-Tel albums, that was a big deal.
It was.
Because it was like the original playlist that people had. Now it's like, iTunes, whatever. But at the time, it was a record with like the top 12 hits or whatever, like at that time. It would be like Donna Summers and like Ozzy Osbourne on the same album.
Right.
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Right.
And that was good stuff. That was good stuff. That was survival for sure.
It really was. And did it stay with you all throughout too?
Absolutely. I mean, just for so many different reasons. And I think the big thing for me has always been that, I always go back to that place of like, you can create a family and it doesn't have to be blood. Like that can be, your friends can become that family that you need or that you think that you're missing or whatever. You can build that yourself, But yeah, it absolutely sticks with me. I mean, I'll tell you one thing that I can hear right now as I'm thinking about it is Carolyn's laugh.
Yes.
I mean, she was so amazing. I mean, just had it not been for her, I don't know really like where I would have ended up in all honesty. I mean, she, and thinking about it, like this is way before cell phones and, all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, when you grew up in the 80s, like nothing seemed as big of a tragedy as it probably was kind of thing. But she's like, you can't, my situation was not great. And I ended up where I did. And I remember talking to her. I came by the house and she's just like, no, you need to come. Yeah, just stay here kind of thing. And it was just, she was always like that. Like she co-signed on my first car loan. I mean, she was just the biggest, most generous heart in the entire world. Absolutely.
She really was. And I stayed a little bit longer than you did in the 4th level. And one of the things I loved about my Aunt Carolyn is she was always interested in everything about your life. And she would send an email. At first, she would email just about every week and let us know, everything that was going on down in. But what she was so good at, and I loved this to death about her, is throughout my career and throughout college and throughout all the trials and tribulations that I went through. I could always go back to her, and it was like being home. I would walk into that house and even walk down to the 4th level, and I just felt, it was always home to me.
Yeah.
even though we all only lived there for a short time, we had this wonderful. I think the teenage whisperer really just
Yeah.
knew, and there were she was that way for David and Susan.
Yep.
She became intertwined, you know, so much with their lives, and they were stepkids to her, but she just
She
adored
never
them.
would have told you they were stepkids either. That was
She
the big
never
one.
would have.
Yeah.
She always would introduce them. This is my daughter. This is my son. And
I remember her introducing me as her daughter one time, and I don't remember where we were. And I remember just being like, what? Like, yeah, like just such a, oh my gosh. I mean, she was just an amazing person. She just, I mean, her heart was just endless. It really was. And it still is. Like, it lives with me all the time. All
yeah,
the time. I don't know who, what, when, where, all those things had it not been for her at that time. And obviously you guys too. I mean, it was just, that was part of the truth, but I,
yep.
there's just so many things that I think about with Vance, and I just like, oh my God, like don't talk to Valerie when she gets up. Remember, she comes stomping up the stairs to get ice water in the morning.
But you know what? She had so much fun though too.
Yeah.
Um, she was just in the thick of it all the time. What I was shocked about, literally shocked about, is Valerie is my cousin, and I didn't know her that well. And so Carrie and I and Valerie went to a school in Colorado Springs called Doherty High School.
Thomas B.
My father used to say Doherty, Doherty High School, and
Doherty.
Doherty. But anyway, what I was shocked about. So I was kind of a square peg, right? And I didn't really know Valerie that well in the beginning. And we go to school, and I find out that Valerie, my cousin, is one of the popular kids.
Mhm.
Like really popular. I was like, oh my gosh. And you know what's funny is I would spend hours waiting for Valerie because she like took days to get through the line of people saying goodbye to her. I was like, right? Did you ever experience this?
Oh, completely. I mean, and it's so funny. Like our friendships with Valerie, for me, started in the 7th grade, and it's lasted a lifetime. But thinking back at that time, so um, I had a very different set of friends too. So my boyfriend in high school went to a different high school, and then I kind of, we had like sort of a pod around that, people that I hung out with. So it was kind of a dichotomy of like, she was always, like the extrovert, talking, chit chatting, being, with everybody. And I kind of like my friends I had friends like I wasn't part of one group, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like it never boiled down to me being part of one group, whether they were popular, unpopular, like whoever. I feel like I was friends with everybody, and but like kind of the people that I hung out with actually went to Coronado, went to a different high school just because of my boyfriend at the time. But it is really funny when you think about it, like who you were, who I am, and who she is. Like it made no sense at all. It made absolutely no sense at all.
I used to be really embarrassed. I used to think I was embarrassing to Valerie because people would ask me, they would come up to me, "Are you Valerie Smith's cousin?" And I'd be like, yeah. They'd be like, "Well, she's popular," and they were like, "You're nobody." And so it's a weird thing.
You're somebody. You were somebody then.
They were like, I was a very lanky, skinny kid, and they were just like, oh, they couldn't believe it. And we, at Doherty, and if you're listening to this and you were from that school, you probably know what smoking by the green thing was. And what's funny is everybody smoked by the green thing.
Mm-hmm.
Doherty High School has this green thing. It's like an electrical box on the very edge of the property. And this little thing is where all of the smokers smoked.
And not only could you drink in high school, you could smoke in high
You
school.
could smoke. Like,
What happened to the rules? Like what?
right. Like the school administrators were probably so glad to see us graduate and leave. Let's get these drunk
Nobody
smokers
worried
out of
about
here.
like standing too close to the door to smoke or anything like that. Remember, there was the window, the big window, and then people used to where the heater radiator thing was, and so people used to sit along that hallway there and stuff. But I laughed so hard. I'm like, was no one paying attention? Because I mean, you were talking about the whole PE thing, the Doherty PE thing, and like they were way more concerned about making sure that people had a place to smoke than maybe calling me down to the office and saying you might not graduate.
Right.
Because you're 0.5 credits short, in PE. It's just different.
To this day, I am incensed about it. Like, I think I was a junior, Carrie, when I went into the guidance office of Doherty High School in California.
Doherty. Thomas P. Doherty, yeah.
Where they show me the all of the PE credits I lacked and how many I had to take to graduate. And my senior year at Doherty was mostly PE. I had a swimming class first period, and then I went to like a business class, and then I had another swimming class third period. And then in the afternoon, I had field sports.
Oh my God. So I got to ask, has the swim class ever helped you out in life?
No. You know what's terrible, Carrie, is up until that point, I had never had a D ever in my whole scholastic career.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take basketball with Mr. Hamilton. Do you remember him?
I kind of do. I think I do. Yeah.
Like
There's
blonde hair,
Mm-hmm.
dude, he was like, anyway.
I took patience for people like you and I who are not athletes.
Right. Yeah. I was a nerdy kid and I took basketball. Mr. Hamilton did nothing except talk to the other PE teachers, right? And we just dribbled basketballs and played. There were no games. It was like the total biggest waste of time, ever in this whole thing. Like, I used to hate that class so much. And then at the end of it, Mr. Hamilton gave me a D in basketball. And it was probably I would say maybe just a couple of years ago, Carrie, I was looking for a paper in my papers and things, and believe it or not, I came across my old Doherty report card, and it could have been any of them from the whole time I was there, but it happened to be the one with the big fat D on it. from Mr. Hamilton, and I relived the pain and suffering. Like, I would be driving to work and having these little conversations in my head. Mr. Hamilton never saw me shoot a basket ever.
He wasn't even paying attention.
Right.
I mean,
I made an effort. I learned how to dribble.
Oh my God. The swim class, actually, that's really funny because I've thought about this a million times in my lifetime since then, is that, I don't know if you remember, but they taught us how to, you get thrown off a boat and you're wearing a pair of Levi's, you can make a life raft out of them. Or whatever, you know what I'm talking about.
Life vest.
Yeah, life vest. You can make a life vest out of them. And not that I've ever this is why I refuse to go on a cruise. That's never going to be my thing. But I've thought about that so many times. If there's one thing I learned in high school, it's how to make a life vest out of a pair of Levi's. And if you I often wondered too, would that really have saved my life? I mean, maybe if Tom Hanks had known that when he did,
did that movie, right?
Yeah,
right. And our swimming coach at Doherty was Mr. Lear. And
Mr. Lear. I totally remember him.
Mr. Lear's daughter went to Doherty, and
You
they
remember her
named
name?
her Krista Chandelier.
Weird. That's amazing. That is like so amazing. Yeah.
Right.
Lucky her. That's like being Mrs. Perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
Christine.
Right. She was, but Krista Chandelier was super nice.
Yeah, she was a sweetheart. She was a sweetheart.
Super nice girl, and her parents were completely honorary to name her that. You know what else we have in common, Carrie. So
What?
we go off into the world and make our lives, and we both ended up being touched by the paranormal in some way.
I've got the affliction. There's no
Mhm.
doubt. There is no doubt.
And my paranormal experience was a house we lived in Loveland. And so I probably never told you this. Jody and I lived in it together. My
This
sister
was in
Jody.
Loveland?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
We go to look at this. It's a little duplex, right? It's a little duplex. We go to look at it, and right in the front door, as we're going, the landlord is coming to open it up. There is a dead rabbit right in front of the door, and it was like that should have been the very first sign not to rent this place.
You don't know until you don't, right? Like,
Right. If you just some words of advice, if you go and you're looking to rent a place and there's a dead animal in front of the door, turn around and leave.
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God. So what happened?
All right. So it took a while before things started to happen. Mhm. And Jody and I are sitting there. They had made the garage into a family room in this place, and
Okay.
it's brick. It's made out of brick, and the windows don't open. They're
In the
old,
family room?
yeah, and they've been painted shut.
Oh, that feels like I can't breathe already.
Right. Right. So here's Jody and I. We're eating on little TV trays in our little family room that has this mural painted. And the bedroom that I am in, all of a sudden the door slammed. And I mean slammed.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I looked at Jody and Jody looked at me and she's like, Did you hear that? And I'm like, well, of course I heard that.
Yeah.
And so, I went back there. Now that room was very strange because it was always cold in there. Always cold. That's another sign. If you walk into a room and it's constantly freezing, that's another sign that there's something wrong with it. So this went on where we would walk into we'd be in the house and either the door to my bedroom would shut or the door to Jody's room would slam shut.
Ugh.
And things would be missing. Like sometimes things would just disappear and things would be missing. And we went to Colorado Springs one weekend, and I decided to do something really hideously mean to whatever lived there. And I had this little cassette player that played that had auto reverse, so it play, basically play forever. So I put a tape in there of a 70s song. It was Afternoon Delight.
Perfect. That'll scare any spirit away. Yeah.
Afternoon Delight.
Yeah.
And Jody and I left. We leave, and I had forgotten that I did that. And we go back into the house, and my door is closed to my room, but I can still hear "Gonna Find My Baby." And I open the
You
door.
just see like the spirits, just like, or whoever, like whatever that afterlife was, or whatever that presence was, just going, no.
Right. So I go in, and there was like a little built-in shelf in this room, and that little autoplay cassette player that was playing Afternoon Delight was sitting on it, and there was a dead mouse, just kind of like
Really?
laid, dead, just laid in front of it.
No.
Yeah, and it looked like it had been like stretched so the tail was, long. So it was the spirit saying, F you and how dare you do this?
You want to play? We'll play.
We'll play. Yeah. I've got you, buddy. And what was really terrifying about that is I really I had a terrible fear of mice anyway. And I was like, falling asleep, I'm like, what if it let mice in here?
An
Right?
entire family, or like,
An
yeah,
entire right. That's all I could
yeah.
think about. I could not sleep. I kept a flashlight with me to see if this evil being or whatever lived there had left something in the room. And what was interesting is when when we finally decided to leave this house, through all of that, this little spirit or whatever that lived there had gotten attached to Jody and I. And I don't think it really wanted us to go. So I ended up getting super duper sick, and couldn't really move.
Wait, were you still living there when you guys had decided to move, like when this happened, or was it
Yeah.
something else? Okay.
We had decided to move. I was so sick. I was staying at my mother's house, and there were, some friends helped move our stuff out of this house, and they went and moved my bed in this room this cold bedroom that I had slept in, and there was a black outline behind my headboard. It was like a perfect, black outline for some odd reason. Nobody could figure out what the hell it was or what made it. And Jody's like, "Oh, you got to go back to the duplex. You got to see the weird thing that happened in the room."
Oh,
And it was creepy. And Jody and I had actually left at one point, and we had told our little sister to watch the house for us. And she called us at 11 that night, and she was like, I'm at Michelle's house, our cousin. She's like, I was sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden the door slammed.
it was in Loveland?
Loveland, yes.
Okay.
Oh, so
Yeah, I've had some, the house that I have in San Diego, I need to be very careful about it because it's for sale right now.
right. Well, it's a different house.
Totally different house, yeah. But and my daughter can attest to this, like just a series of just bizarre things and whatever. And as a matter of fact, we still call it the Devil's Playground, because somehow like the numbers of the address like add up to something that. But that being said, probably one of, after having a lot of like strange things and more, I watch my animals too, because I think animals are very sensitive to that kind of thing. And I have a very long hallway when you first walk in the door. It's probably a good 30 feet to get to the back of the house where the kitchen and the family room and the master bedroom are and everything. And that little area right in there, my dogs, and, in the last 18 years that I've lived there, I've, not including dogs that I've fostered, but I've had like 5 different dogs, have always barked at that one little area in there. But kind of the coup d'etat, the whole thing, and when I knew something was really wrong was, this was about 2011. And my shower in the master bath has a glass side here, and then the whole front of it's glass, and it's got a glass door. And there's no crack in it. Keep that in mind. Like anybody that has any, like, that might think that there was a crack in it or something, whatever. That was not the case at all. It's 1.5, like half-inch thick glass, whatever. I go to bed. It's like 10:30 at night, and I'm in bed for maybe 15 minutes, and I hear what sounds like, the only way I can describe it is like a wave crashing, and it wasn't loud, but it was a whoosh kind of thing. And I thought, what in the hell is that? And, and between where I'm laying in my bed and where the shower is, I mean, had there not been a wall there, I'm saying that there might have been like 10 feet between, like, it just wasn't like you would imagine glass would sound. But I walked in there and turned the light on, and I just remember standing there and just going, there's no way this is happening. Both sides of the shower had just crumbled into the shower, had just completely shattered. Like, you'd have to see the pictures to really. And at the time, I was in publishing, and I was working with a physics professor actually down at UCSD on some editorial stuff for writing a book and whatever. And I do remember even asking him, because there was just literally no explanation for this having happened. And I remember even asking him, like spontaneous combustion for glass, like how often, kind of thing. And he's like, that's, there was a myriad of explanations we could have come up with that, I don't live too far from Camp Pendleton, just south of that. And a lot of times you can hear the bombing going off when they're, doing maneuvers and stuff. This was not like that. It was just a silent night. And all of a sudden it just went. And the fact that I remember exactly what he said to me when I was talking to him about it. He goes, it could have been this, but you might have a ghost. I went, what? So like, what? But we've had a lot of, very different things. And, at some point I remember a friend of mine coming over, and because it got really bad. Like, it seemed like it was around 2010, 2011. There was just a lot of, and weird activity, like just bad things going on in my life, whatever. And that could have brought it or whatever. But the best advice I ever got was just be at peace with it. Like, just make friends with it. And when it's doing something you don't like, just say, stop it right now. And so that's kind of where my daughter and I are at. Like, when it's doing something, we don't know what it is, if it's real. Like, anybody listening might think we've got big imaginations, but I can tell you that, like, I've had friends over there, everything. And it just, the presence of it is, it's kind of funny. Once we kind of just said, like, okay, we don't want to play right now. Like, no more kind of thing. And then it would stop. But my animals still to this day will go and bark at that one area in the hallway. And I actually have a very big mirror there. And I hung a bell on it too, because I was told that could be kind of like a portal or whatever. But it's still the strangest thing. Like, it looks like they're barking at nothing, but they just will stand in that one area of the house and bark.
Right. I saw the pictures of this, on Facebook.
Yeah.
And when I saw him, I was like, get the hell out of here.
Oh, I can't even tell you. I mean, to this day, and I've had, like, some of my, like, best of best friends have, like, been in the house and have seen stuff like a glass slide across the counter and stuff. And it's just one of those things that, believe it or don't believe it, but, like, as far as we're concerned, there's something else definitely going on.
Right.
But once you kind of make peace with it, it's like, the more you resist it, the more it persists, kind of thing. So we stopped doing that and just said, okay, but right now we don't want to play.
Right. Well, thanks for telling us that story, Cari. You know what? This hour has flown by. So
we have so much to talk about, Kevin.
We have so much to talk about. The day that will live in infamy. Maybe next year at the same time we'll have you back.
I would love it. It was such a pleasure. It was such a privilege too. Thank you so much for reaching out. That was really sweet. That made my day.
Well, good. So, what's your plans after this? Are you going out to dinner? Are you having fun?
You know what? I'm going to hang out with my crew, Pablo and Chapo and Holly, my 3 dogs.
Uh-huh.
And I'm probably going to drive back to San Diego tomorrow. I just saw that I got a text message from my realtor, so fingers crossed. But just taking it really easy and just kind of enjoying the day. I was kind of like, my birthday for me is always like, I've spent it alone a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of a fun, like, for me, like, I just let it go. Like, allow myself to not have to go to the gym or to not have to answer the phone or not look at email and those kind of things. So those are the good things, but we'll celebrate it. I mean, at some point though, when I get back in town and everybody's past the holidays and stuff, we'll have, I'm sure we'll celebrate it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the New Bridge Radio Show.
Thank you.
This is going to do it this is our last show of 2022.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And then we go off into the new year in bigger and better things happening, especially for WLTK-DB. It has been a labor of love from my producer Todd Bates, and I am forever
Shout out
grateful
to
for
Todd.
his
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. And tonight he almost had to cancel because he's really sick.
Oh.
But he came and did this, and I just can't thank you enough, Todd, for being such a great teacher and a great producer. That's gonna do it for us. Thank you for joining us on the New Bridge Radio Show. We will see you in 2023.
Love you, Kevin. I'm proud of you.
Love you too, Cari. I'll see you soon.
Bye. All right.
Bye.